Okay, let's talk a little bit about the guys that built these two teams.
Unsung heroes, the architects of dynasties. And I think you can call Kansas City a dynasty. You know John Lynch Jr. He, of course, has taken over and done a phenomenal job creating a very competitive environment with the San Francisco 49ers. And this is a guy that's not afraid to gamble. You know, he had Jimmy Garoppolo and said goodbye. He drafted Trey Lance, traded up to get him. A year and a half in, said, this doesn't work. He's gone, traded him, and then he drafted Mr. Irrelevant. And Brock Purdy manages games and can win some games for you. John Lynch knows football IQ. Not afraid to pay a big price. Traded for Christian McCaffrey in a fire sale deal from Carolina. Most complete running back, MVP candidate in the NFL. Traded for unhappy defensive end Chase Young, who had a couple of good years with the Washington Commanders. Then he got hurt, hasn't quite gotten back, but he's got no fear of making deals. And they went in the free agent market. And they didn't have a lot of cap space, and yet he convinced Javon Hargrove to come from Philadelphia. He comes to San Francisco, and then the draft. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Bosa, Armstead. This guy knows football talent. That's why the John Lynch Jr. is in the Hall of Fame.
Right on.
And, of course, he's from here, Torrey Pines and Stanford, Tampa Bay, Pro Football Hall of Fame. The other guy, and a lot of people don't know about, Brett Veech. He's been there hand in hand with Andy Reid for an extended period of time. He rebuilt this defense. Do you know when that defense goes on the field Sunday, 8 of the 11 starters in the defense for Kansas City are their own draft picks. Drafted, hit on them, and they've all been successful, and they all fit Spagnuolo's system. You know, names I'll throw at you that you're going to recognize. Trent McDuffie, cornerback. George Karlaftis, defensive end. Willie Gay, LSU, inside linebacker. Nick Bolton, linebacker. L'Jarius Sneed, Justin Reed. And then the most recent draft picks, Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco.
Hey, those guys are good.
Exactly. And they have rebuilt the offensive line, and the offensive line right now is not playing real well. They spent a chunk of money to get Donovan Smith from Tampa Bay at left tackle. They picked up Juwan Taylor from right tackle from Baltimore, big guy, most penalized tackle in the NFL. And they don't have Joe Thurney, who they got from the Patriots. So if there's a glitch right now, it's just the offensive line has not played up to what they thought it would be for the prices they paid. But in the big picture, it's just not Patrick Mahomes anymore. It's a really good football team. And Veech and Andy Reid work hand in hand as to sight, scope, sign the guys they want. So your thoughts on the GMs?
Yeah, I mean, both spectacular guys. I mean, I think what they're pulling off is fantastic. But I want to talk about, you made a comment about the idea of a dynasty, you know, and if either of these teams are dynasties. And I was watching the Channel 8 CBS local news, John Howard, you know, he said, you got to win at least 3 to be a dynasty. I mean, what's your take on that?
Kansas City's knocking on the door, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, doggone close to being a dynasty. Now, dynasty. Lombardi's Packers, dynasty. All things Belichick, Patriots. Kansas City's got 2 rings, so they're trying to get 3rd. So they're headed in that direction. So it's interesting. The word dynasty has kind of become a cheap coin phrase, gets tossed around a lot. To me, dynasty is you got to do it over a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the Steelers in the 70s,
exactly.
The 49ers in the 80s, the Cowboys in the 90s.
Maybe the Raider Nation somewhere in there.
Yeah, they had their moments. But yeah, you know, I'm not sure which one. It's kind of hard. It's a subjective thing. The other comment I want to ask you about is John Lynch. You worked for his father.
Yes.
So did you ever interact with John Lynch Jr. when he was a young child?
Well, he was a quarterback at Stanford. Actually, they put together a highlight film, him being a quarterback, and I voice tracked it for them. And it was kind of cool. And then John got hurt his senior year. I think he broke his leg or his ankle. And anyhow, he wound up going to Stanford. And instead of being a quarterback, they made him a safety. And you know the rest of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I went to Tampa Bay. Was just a phenomenal player. Heady. Tough guy, but heady, smart. And obviously went to the Denver Broncos and finished up there. And then dabbled in TV once he retired. And bingo, all of a sudden, he's back in the front office of the 49ers. And that last time I talked to him, which was prior to the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction. It's cool.
Yeah. What a great career.
Yeah. You talk about Hometown boy makes good.
And he still has a lot of miles left on him. He's still a young man.
Yeah. Yeah. What a job they've done. What a phenomenal job they've done constructing rosters, because it's not easy. I mean, you got talent, but then you got injuries, and then you had problems off the field, and then you got salary cap. I mean, it's tough to be a modern day NFL general manager because there's so many factors that can impact who you are.
Plus, you need to have a philosophy, right? You know, as far as how you're going to construct a team and what you want to be known for, because every GM kind of has their own idea of what success is supposed to be.
Yeah, and linking with the coach, and what the coach thinks is important is how you to win, and what you think might be important. But I in all honesty, Lynch and Shanahan just seem to be the ideal couple in terms of football. You know, tackle, hit, make plays. But you got to stay healthy.
Right.
And you can't have bad citizens. And so they've hit on all cylinders, much like Brett Veech has hit on all the cylinders with the creative genius that Andy Reid is.
Well, I'm one thing I'll give Veech a lot of credit for is I thought that the Chiefs were going to be doomed when Tyreek Hill walked out the door, or when they traded him, excuse me.
That was a cap issue. They had to. But they got all these picks from Miami. I think there's 3 starters that came in that trade.
Yeah.
A chunk of that defense is by virtue of the Tyreek Hill trade.
Yeah, so they came out ahead in that, I think.
Exactly. Win-win. Okay, so we've talked about all the specific things as it relates to GMs and coaches and coordinators, but it's still a quarterback's game.
Yes.